like a hammer that breaks rocks into pieces, is the voice of the Lord in my belly.
This is Heart to Heart with Sibongile Mofokeng on Radio Pulpit. Heart to Heart.
Beautiful music, hey? That is Naledi Sheshe and the song from My Belly. Before that, Loyiso Bala featuring Naval D, Let It Rain. 26 minutes. It is just before 1 on Radio Pulpit, your daily companion. My family, we are truly grateful for your support during our Visiothon. Last week we had Visiothon. You make it possible for us to continue to bring a message of truth and hope on all platforms. Hey? That's you, my family. And so we are grateful for that. And for those who missed out on our Visiothon and still want to give, please send an SMS with the word give to 37871, followed by your name and the amount you wish to give. Or you can send a WhatsApp to 082-657-2729. And do remember that together we are connecting faith to life. Thank you, family. Thank you, and may God awesomely bless you. On the line, as I promised the family, I am now joined by Your Excellency Seth Naika on behalf of the Faith Action to End GBV. He's on the line with me. How are you, sir?
I love the way you say Excellency. I should say hello to you, Excellency Sibongile. Hello to you and all the listeners on Heart to Heart.
Thank you so much and welcome. So the other day I was talking to you, I think it was on the 18th, preparing for the launching of the Red Check campaign, which was going to take place. Was it taking place on the same day? Yeah, it was taking place on the 19th, if I'm correct. But it was to spread the word and bring faith, what do we call them? Faith organizations to come and talk about this, how to end GBV, and to challenge them to have a red chair in their churches, in their spaces, so that we can fight GBV together, take action and to end GBV. So, how is it going? What's happening now? What have you heard after this as we are doing a follow-up this afternoon?
Yes, Sibongile. So the campaign officially launched on the 25th of November, but you're quite right. On the 19th, we ran a workshop with the National Shelter Movement in partnership with Heartlines and We Will Speak Out and Faith Action to End Gender-Based Violence. So we kind of did a test and we observed the moment. And I recall one participant stepping forward, standing at the red chair that we had set up.
Yeah.
So it's simply just a red chair and a poster that says a place for them. And she stood up and came to the front and said, it's the first time since my sister passed away in 2003. I shouldn't just say that her sister passed away. Her sister was murdered due to gender-based violence.
Sure.
So she commemorated a moment and just, paid homage in that way to the memory of her sister. And it was the first time that she had done this since way back when. They kind of got through the funeral. I mean, it's 2024. Her sister died in 2003. So yes, Sibongile, the campaign launched on the 25th of November and will be carried right up until the 10th of December, as you know, as a part of 16 days of activism. But we also believe that this notion of remembering those that have been lost due to domestic and gender-based violence, it mustn't just be now the time that we observe, but we want to see it moving towards sustained action.
It should be a daily thing.
And there's a series of posters and resources that have been created by Faith Action to End Gender-Based Violence. And so if people wanna get connected, all they need to do is contact info at www.sosa.org.za.
But now,
linked to the campaign.
Yeah, but now you spoke about the workshop that was held on the 19th with faith-based organizations. How was the turnout? How was the response? How are they receiving it?
Yeah, I mean, we invited specific guests, so it was guests that actually were working with shelter movements, and obviously
Right.
these shelter movements are places that will take care of people that need a place of safety.
Mm,
And a lot of the place of safeties have to do with gender-based violence. So we had about 16 participants. It was received really well. People are looking for new ideas. They're in the space of caring for people. They are the folk that are doing the compassion. They are the folk that are doing the heavy lifting. So they really enjoyed being part of a collective. And we're hoping that together with the national shelter movement, with Faith Action to End Gender-Based Violence, with Heartlines, with We Will Speak Out, we'll have more organizations that are connected. And we found that, after the launch that took place on the 21st, if people go to the Facebook page, you will see all the action at Faith Action to End Gender-Based Violence. People are posting about the Red Chair campaign and what they've done over the last few days. So you've got people that are observing it in their homes. They set up a chair, and now, even during Thanksgiving, we've had a few folk that have had a chair that is set up as a Red Chair, saying a place for them right in their homes. And then if you look across, you will see a range of churches, Anglican churches, Council of African Independent Churches, URCSA churches, NGOs. Like there's one that was posted just 2 days ago, the practice of Dr. Michael Mark, specialist obstetrician, has placed a red chair and joined the campaign in their practice room. So I mean, it's amazing that people have taken it up. We've got people, like Tabo Makoba of the Anglican Church that has taken a picture and his observance of the red chair. We've got Archbishop Tami Nana. We've got Olufile Masangani as a program manager in Heartlines. So there's a host of people that have just Deline Mark from Hope Africa, and the work they're doing with the Anglican Church. So yeah, a host of people have just jumped onto this national and this global campaign. Yeah.
So for somebody who's hearing about the Red Chair campaign and asking, what is this Red Chair campaign? Maybe they're hearing about it for the first time. How do we explain it to them?
So simply, it's a campaign that is set up for us to remember those that are lost to domestic and gender-based violence, or through domestic and gender-based violence.
Yeah.
What's required is for the person to keep one seat open in our places of work, worship, studying, wherever it is that we are. And all that means is that they dress a chair in red and place up a poster that says a place for them. And that's about it. So that's the way people can participate, in the campaign and get involved. Set up a red chair, put a little poster that says a place for them. If they want to make it more special, I've seen people, put up some candles in the space, a picture of their loved one. So yeah, that's the basic of it, just to place the chair and have it there. I mean, like we've done it in our church at the URCSA Annandale. We have the chair, and that chair will stay throughout the season of Advent, right at our church, with some posters and pictures as well, but it says a place for them.
So now, when you're doing such campaigns, Naika, what one would ask is, do people really understand the effects of GBV on families, on individuals? Do we really understand? Because we hear about it. Some of us have never experienced it, but we hear about it or we see it from afar. And most of the times, I remember in some of the townships, your business is your business. It has nothing to do with me. So as long as I'm okay, my family's fine, but your business is your business. I do me, you do you. Do we really, as a society, understand the effects that GBV has on families and individuals?
I think cognitively, yes. A lot of people understand the plight of gender-based violence. We kind of acknowledge that it's out there. But if the fire is not burning close to my space, just like you said, Sibongile, then I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to get engaged. But this is why in the faith sector, with NGOs, non-profit organizations that have come along, we are in the faith sector, and our faith and our churches have a role and a mandate to make sure that our people are aware about what gender-based violence is doing, not just about acknowledging it out there, but aware that it's wreaking havoc in our homes, in our families, amongst children. I mean, it's interesting. Heartline just put out a new research on the Fathers Matter work, and they've done an amazing research piece that points out, to the fact that children are calling out, their fathers, and they observe that fathers are providers, but they've also in the report we see that fathers are noted for physical abuse.
Eish.
And as abusers, yes, there's abuses of substance, but then they also, and I'm drawing straight out of the report here where it says fathers as physical abusers. The research findings reveal a clear and troubling picture of how some children perceive violence within the family and its impact on their concept of fatherhood. A bad father is strongly associated with physical abuse, both towards his children and his wife or partner. Such actions are unequivocally condemned by children. So, I mean, whether we as adults want to acknowledge the pains, the crisis of gender-based violence or not, it is a reality. It's happening at a rate that is it's alarming. I mean, every 3 hours a woman is killed in South Africa. Our country is ranked 4th in the world for women who die at the hands of their partner. And so we're saying that while there may be those who say, well, you do you, I'll do me, in our churches, in our faith sector work, in our non-government work, this is not what we should be saying. We should be saying, no, we're getting plugged in. We want to see healed people. We want to see a healed nation. We want to see healthier families. We want to see men who, unfortunately, by and large, still end up being, the kind of priority perpetrators. This is not to say that gender-based violence doesn't happen the other way. But by and large, if we can help our men, and interesting, last month when we were doing, Men's Health Month, a lot of the realities is that men need to have a space to talk, need to have a space to get counseling, need to have a space for mentorship. Yeah. Exactly. Because we can't leave it only on the children and the women who, by and large, are they're survivors, but they're also victims, right? So I think, when that I do some work around Fathers Matter, but I've also done work specifically on Fathers Matter to end gender-based violence. If we can have men, becoming awake to how they can be more present, and actively present, and positively present in the lives of their family, not only in the lives of the family. Yeah. Take me, for example. I mean, gender-based violence may not be hitting my specific home where I'm married, but I confess to you, I'm a man who also needs to work on my emotions. It's getting into Christmas time. Just the other day, my wife had to say to me, Seth, you need to pause the way you're getting so stressed and reacting in a way. So it takes strong people to be in your life. But in my family circles, Sibongile, in my relatives, I know that gender-based violence is a reality. And at times, we are called to be the ones to step in. Now, I hope a campaign like this will allow us to get into the conversation, but not just the conversation, to start to do we actually need to start to do the healing work. To work, yes, with those who are survivors, but also to begin to work with those who are perpetrators.
Sure. But now one would ask a question that I always ask myself this question, that when somebody has learned the habits, I don't know if they are habits but they've learned it from their father. They've seen their father abusing their mom. They've seen men around in their township, in their space, abusing their women. And it has become something which is normal. And maybe this person or this man, when he was younger, he said, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be like my father. But at the end, he does exactly what his father did. Is it something that happens because it's learned, but it's somewhere lying dormant, and when there's pressure in one's life, it comes out? Or is it a learned an action habit that you bring out or this is how we resolve matters? How does it work? when you're talking to these men?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll speak personally. I confess to you, Excellency Sibongile,
Thank you
I'm a
so much for your
pastor, I'm a
testimony.
father, I'm a husband, uh, but I'm also a man who's grown up in a toxic world where patriarchy and power has been taught a certain way. So in some ways, I am a result of the social construct around me, how I've seen men behave and how I've seen leadership behavior. So the one part it is that there's a social context that we got to deal with.
Mm.
But again, as an individual, as a person, I need to catch a wake up now. Being in my late 40s, to the reality that if I want to heal myself, I can see that that's wrong. Okay, so if we take it to the example of a young man who's experienced a father, yes, you're quite right. He could, for the sake of in his own family, around his mother and his sisters or his siblings, made a stand. But some of that goes on with him because he's learned tactics now. So shouting and scolding and screaming and resolving to give a smack instead of having a conversation. So I mean, you learned techniques. I think one of the resources I appreciated during the COVID days from Heartline, as you know, I work with them a lot, was this whole idea of hashtag SBLR. And I used it for myself, but I also used it within our context because we saw, the gender-based violence reality really become exacerbated. Not that it wasn't there, but got really pointed out in the days of COVID where, survivors and victims were in the same homes with their perpetrators, right? So the SBLR simply says this, it's a tool and technique to cause you to stop. Number one, stop,
Right.
breathe,
Yeah.
listen, and then respond. And the stop might be coming, yes, with the stop of like, say, Marisha saying, hey, Seth, your language is becoming abusive because I'm scolding my kid and I don't want to be that guy, right? So that stop, I got to acknowledge, yes, is it me that can make the stop, or maybe there's a mentor or coach or significant other or partner or wife that's calling the stop.
Yeah.
But then after the stop, breathe. Take some deep breaths in. Bring down that stress in your mind, that stress in your in your heart, the stress on your veins popping out, on your forehead. Breathe, and then move to listening. And the listening requires, yes, to listen to the people, but also listen to your heartbeat, listen to who you are. A lot of men that are out there, or perpetrators that are out there in the GBV space, when they stop and think about what they just enacted, the reality is that they wake up and they can't believe what they've done. Look, there are those that have gone on almost to that extent where they would say to you, oh, it's my right to smack them. This woman that I married, she's just another child in my family, right? And that's social counts, but we gotta shift those norms. So it is possible, and this tactic that I'm sharing with you today, stop, breathe, listen, and then respond, delays us from moving quickly to actions that can be disastrous, quickly to moving to actions that can bring hurt and pain. So you're quite right. For that young man who experienced what he saw, I mean, he's experiencing this, and now at the same time he's learning it. Now, when he gets married, or when he's in a significant relationship with his significant other, he's going to have to make specific choices to untrain himself. Untrain himself from those behaviors. And guess what? The good news is it is possible. That's the good news. The bad news is that a lot of people just want to go on same old, keep the status quo. Oh, well, she got a smack, he smacked her, things happen. No, those things have to change. We have a footballing community that I'm a part of, right, Sibongile?
Yeah.
And there's a group of elders that are there. We try to work, intentionally with men that are part of the soccer group, speaking to them. And at times it means calling them, checking in on them, making sure that we are being men who are by and large still at the top of this ladder around perpetrating violence. Now, not all of them, are terrible men, but we want to make sure that the men that are in our group of footballers are actually doing well by their families, serving themselves out. And I mean, on our WhatsApp chat, we've got, some of the elders that make sure we check in with one another, we give motivational messages. I've even shared some of the Fathers Matter campaign and the Red Chair campaign in that space. So people that are out there can actually take positive action during this time. And this season of Advent should be a beautiful time of waiting upon our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and celebrating it. But for some people, there'll be nightmares taking place. Stress level goes up, the guy gets angry, or the perpetrator gets angry, and the next thing you're looking at a case of gender-based violence. So Sibongile, to get to the heart of the matter, we can stop this. But it means that we all get connected and we start to do the healing work of learning how to change our behavior by leaning on our positive values that can help us to do so.
Wow. Greetings to Frank Jacobs. Thank you so much for tuning in. And he says, great show. And greetings to the family and the guests. Greetings to you, Seth Naika, from Frank Jacobs there. And hello to all family members who are tuned in. When you're talking about the victims now, let's look at the victims. When I was growing up, there were those victims, even when they could see that the one who is... Can I call them perpetrators? Can I say perpetrator? Can I use that word?
Yeah. The other word that we use is obviously, and this is important in GBV work, like as I've been in my learning as well, because I've been through a program, with the Faith Leaders Gender Transformation Program, where we talk about a survivor-centered approach. So, yes, people are victimized, but the identity is not that they are victims. They are survivors.
They are survivors.
Many of them, they are beating the odds. They're survivors, yes.
So when you're looking at the survivors, those who are still within that kind of a space where they are abused by their significant other, when we're looking at those, in the previous times, I remember it didn't make sense to me that a woman would say, if he doesn't lay a hand on me, then it means he doesn't love me. Do we still experience such when you're doing these counseling and the sessions, when you're meeting with families? Or now the kind of breed of women that we have are those ones who are puzzled by what is happening and they are kind of trapped in that space. I've seen many of them also being stranded where they are abused in these relationships, in these marriages, and yet they wouldn't even go and open a case. They would rather have the perpetrator, the one who's abusing, continue because he's a breadwinner, because he's the father of my children, because I love him.
Wow. Sibongile, you're hitting it to the heart of the matter. And let me start, go from the back to the front. From the latter part. So with the GBV space, we acknowledge and we call it what we call it out as econopatriarchy. Dr. Linda Naika, as we were having our conversations, and she was one of the mentors on our program of the FLGTP program with Faith Action, she said, we got to be aware of econopatriarchy. And the reality is that so much around the abusers are actually the people that are providing for us, right? And if they're out of the company, what does this mean? So like people don't want to pick up and go and lay a charge. So we must acknowledge that there is this crisis. There's also the other crisis, where women have this idea, well, if he doesn't lay a hand on me, he doesn't love me. And that's a wrong, that kind of love is, we have to say it for what it is. It's an abusive kind of love. It's a dehumanizing kind of love. And that shouldn't even be called love. But let's talk about what we can do with supporting survivors of domestic violence. After an individual has disclosed domestic violence to us, it's recommended that we follow a certain process, and people can find this resource right on our Faith Action to End Gender-Based Violence. But let me talk it through. Now, firstly, an individual discloses the domestic violence. Respect and listen. Don't just get into their story and disrupt them. You give them a space where we respect and listen to them. Approach it with believing the survivor. A lot of the time, this is the reality. When survivors come and share their story, they faced this. Many people this belief can't be that person, So believe the survivor. Listen and acknowledge their feelings and trust and treat them with dignity. Even if, you're like, oh, how could this be? Don't let that become the conditioning of your behavior. Listen, acknowledge their feelings and treat them with dignity. Don't ask for proof of violence. Like this, we go there quickly. Oh, show me what happened. Assure the survivor that it is not their fault. this is important that we do that and maintain confidentiality. Then what we can do is also provide information on resources and support services with the survivor's permission. So as a pastor, we now also have to get involved and say, listen, these are the options that we have. I can come there directly. We can even bring, some social sector workers in. We can bring family in. I remember the one case that we were dealing with, and this was, I won't say it was directly just GBV as in violence of gender-based violence, but I'll say it was domestic ill treatment of their partner. Okay? Domestic ill treatment, verbal abuse, and so on, and being irresponsible. And I called in a group and I said to them, call your parents from both sides of the family.
Right.
And I want to say this to you, that it helps because that couple has made it through, they're working through, and they're making it through their work. So give people options. And then we've got to be upfront about, about the ability to help. What can we do? We've got to say what we can do. And ask if we can contact someone to support them. So we've got to ask the survivor where they're at. Give the survivor choices so that they can regain a sense of control. Don't dictate to them. So these are some kind of work that we can do to actually get involved. If there are children involved, we need to check in on that. If there are no children involved, does the survivor feel in immediate danger? Ensure safety of children as a first priority. And then we've got to be prepared that an intervention may increase the risk of further violence to the survivor or the children, or both the survivor and the children. Right? So these are realities that we've got to check in on.
Yeah.
But, working in the space of our church, the reality is that we need to talk about it, and then we've got to say to people, if you're having a problem, like we have a men's ministry, we say to the men, if you have a problem, before you act out in an irregular way, that's going to bring in and require, it might even require that we get the legal people involved and police involved. Come and talk about your problems. The day that you're feeling the stress, make a call for help. Say, Pastor, I don't know what to do. So I think we've got to be available. And then those of us that are spiritual workers, counselors, social workers, people who care for others, we've got to have the skills to say to them, hey, listen, you've got to talk down that hulk that's jumping up in you. You've got to talk down that abusive way in you. And this is where I say, take them away, get them to think, get perspective. And this is how we can really get in and plug in to bring down, the cases of domestic violence and gender-based violence by getting active and sustaining our action to bring healing.
Can we just pack it here and then come back at 1:10 just to wrap it up with you, Your Excellency?
Yes, Your Excellency, Sibongile, by all means.
Let's
to
do
you
that.
And the heart-to-heart listeners.
Let's do that.
I'll be back. We'll be back at 1:10.
Yeah, let's just cross over to the news and then just immediately we come back and we wrap it up with you.
Thank you so much.
Sihamba ngokukholwa hayi ngokubona. Hamba nathi. Radio Pulpit 657 AM. Umngani wakho wemihla ngemihla.
657 Radio Pulpit News.
You're listening to Radio Pulpit, the time 1 o'clock. I'm Sibongile Mofokeng. In your bulletin, the MK party Sibongile Mofokeng dismisses the EFF's threats to attach Nkandla. The ANC is to table a motion on President Cyril Ramaphosa's salary increase. I'm Sibongile Mofokeng. MK Party member for Parliament Mzwanele Manyi has dismissed EFF's leader Julius Malima's legal threats to seize former President Jacob Zuma's Nkandla home over unpaid legal fees. The dispute follows tensions between the AFF and MK Party after several former EFF members joined MK. Manyi states that Zuma's property is under the Ingonyama Trust and cannot be attached.
At a factual level, His Excellency President Zuma lives in Ngonyama Trust land. And so it's unattachable because it's not like it's private property. We note things that would be said in anger. We accept it. We are grown-ups in the MK party.
The ANC will present a motion in the National Assembly to debate President Cyril Ramaphosa's salary adjustment next week. Ramaphosa, whose salary remains 4.2 million rand annually, has not received an increase since assuming office in 2018. ANC Deputy Chief Whip Doris Mdlamkule says or confirmed the motion aligning with the recommendation from the Independent Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers. The National Assembly will also consider a 2.5% salary hike for judges. South African Democratic Teachers Union General Secretary Mungwena Maluleke has announced plans for a protest to demand the implementation of Section 4 and 5 of the Bela Action. Maluleke condemned opposition to these clauses, describing it as a fight against transformation. Maluleke criticized a recent agreement between Solidarity and Basic Education Minister Siviwe Hwahube and claiming it promotes racism and tribalism. He calls for social cohesion.
This particular so-called agreement which we reject, and we're not going to allow it to happen, that we're now going to have a rolling mass action against the leaders of this country who would want to take us back into the eras of colonialism and the eras of apartheid. And we're going to oppose everything that they think they can bring to block transformation.
Calls for the National Consumer Commission's hotline will be free for 3 months. This allows South Africans to report fake or expired foodstuffs free of charge amid rising concerns over contaminated food linked to child fatalities. The Commission says the initiative follows President Cyril Ramaphosa's call for action on food safety, urging consumers to report suspicious sales and ensure proper food labeling and quality standards. And in sports, in motorsports, 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton says the disappointing form on which he is ending his Mercedes career does not define the 12-year journey. This British driver incurred 2 penalties on his way to finishing 12th in the Qatar Grand Prix. He will drive his final race for the Silver Arrows at the season's ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix this weekend, as he is set to join Ferrari next season. Hamilton says he will give it his best shot in the final race.
I'm still standing, and it's not how you fall, it's how you get back up. So I'll get back up tomorrow and give it another shot. I'm trying to just wake up with gratitude, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity each day to get up and be healthy and try again.
Your financial indicators: the dollar trades at 18 rand 9 cents and the euro at 19 rand 2 cents. A British pound costs 22 rand 97 cents. A Bitcoin trades at $95,364. Gold sells at $2,634.34 an ounce, while Brent crude oil is quoted at $72.33 a barrel. That brings us to the end of this bulletin compiled by Newsflash News Agency. Our next newscast will be at 2 o'clock.
657 traffic.
6 minutes, it is just after 1 on Radio Pulpit, your daily companion. Time for a traffic update for this lunch hour. And this is how our roads are looking like in Gauteng. In Kempton Park on R21 southbound, there are traffic restrictions towards the Pomona Road exit. And in Bedford View on N3 northbound, queuing traffic should be expected towards the ramp to the N12 east at Kilulisi Interchange. At Crown on M2, heavy traffic between Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road should be expected. At Boysons, M1 southbound, queuing traffic towards the Boysons exit. Central Johannesburg, M2 eastbound, heavy traffic towards Risiki Street. And in Glen or Protea Glen and 12, traffic lights are out at the R558 Protea Glen exit, and this will affect peak travel times. In Lenasia South Golden Highway, the road is closed between the R558 and the Wimbledon Road due to protest action. And yes, my family, in Randburg Republic Road, traffic lights are out at Kent Road. And again, in Midrand on Alandi Road, traffic lights are out at K101. Going down, my family, to, we're still in Midrand. There's queuing traffic on the N1 northbound. There's queuing traffic on the Olifantsfontein Road of ramp and in Centurion on Samrand Avenue. Traffic lights are out at the N1 highway in Pretoria at Kwagga Road. Traffic lights are out at Rod Street. If you're stuck in traffic that I haven't mentioned, you can dial the 084 gem line. Do remember, normal SAR rates always do apply. Alternatively, you can just make it known to us if you're stuck somewhere and we need to know about this one. You can send us a WhatsApp on 082 657 2729.
We are so thankful to still be connecting faith to life after so many years on air. Will you join us in ensuring the gospel of Christ continues to reach future generations across all our platforms? To give, simply SMS GIVE and the amount you'd like to contribute to 37871. Standard rates apply. Keep us on air everywhere.
You're listening to Radio Pulpit, your daily companion, 657 AM. This is where you at. I'm Sibongile Mofokeng with you up until 3 o'clock. And yeah, my family, we are truly grateful for your support during our Videothon last week. For the whole of last week, we had Videothon. I normally would say we were Videothoning. So we had Videothon last week. And thank you so much, my family. We are so grateful for your support and your contributions. You make it possible for us to continue to bring a message of truth and hope on all our platforms. And for those who missed out on Videothon, you can still give towards our Videothon. Please send an SMS with the word give to 37871. And do remember, you start with the word give followed by the amount you wish to give in your name. And you can also do this on our WhatsApp line. Our WhatsApp line is 082 657 2729. Family, together we are connecting faith to life. We are grateful for you. May God awesomely bless you.
This is Heart to Heart with Sibongile Mofokeng on Radio Pulpit. Heart to Heart.
I'm still talking to Your Excellency Seth Nyker from Faith Action to End GBV, and we are talking about the Red Check campaign and the effects of GBV on families. Now, the Red Check campaign is a 16-day or 16 days of activism campaign that raises awareness and takes action against gender-based violence. And the campaign involves placing a chair on an empty chair, to be specific, in a public space covered with a red fabric and accompanied by information that GBV and domestic abuse on that, and the empty chair symbolizes the lives of those who lost their lives. Yeah, symbolizes the lives lost to GBV, putting it correctly, and serves as a call to action to prevent more deaths. And this is organized by Faith Action to End GBV. And so he is with us at this current moment in time. And greetings to Frank Jacobs, who's tuned in, Vicky Ablish, Musawenko Sim Ministries, and Annette van der Merwe. And we were talking to you, Your Excellency, earlier on, and I asked you a question about women, those who would say, he doesn't love me. If he doesn't lay a hand on me, then it means he doesn't love me. And there's something that comes into one's mind. Is this also something that is learned from those who walked the journey before us? Something that might have been learned from our parents? Maybe I've seen my mom being abused by her husband at home, and then I take it as something which is normal as a woman. Oh, all right. Let's reconnect with Sir Nyker. I think we have to reconnect with him. In the meantime, let's do this. Take the sounds of... okay, I think he's back. Sir Nyker, are you there?
Yes. How are you, Sibongile? Can you hear me?
And now we can hear you. So I wanted to take a break, but let's come back to you. So I asked the question about a woman who would say in utter words like, this man that I'm in a marriage with or I'm in a relationship with, he doesn't lay a hand on me. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't slap me. And so this shows that he doesn't love me. So my question is, with the women, with men, we would say something like, if a man would abuse his wife or abuse his girlfriend, then it's something that he might have learned from his father. So when it comes to a woman, is it the same? Would that come from me seeing my mother being abused by her husband? And so I take it, no, this is how love is shown when you are in a relationship with someone. Is it something that's learned as well?
Yeah, I think both ends, it's always good to look at it through that frame. Like, we have experiences, and those experiences are inputs, and those experiences shape our lives, right, Sibongile? And so, yes, in the same way that we discussed earlier, the case of a young man learning, subtly the tactics. He doesn't like what his father did, but then he ends up turning around and doing exactly what his father did when he saw his father abusing his mom. When for the first time he smacks his girlfriend. I think it's equal, when we talk to women, or we work with survivors, and we speak to people who've been victimized, but now are trying to heal themselves. And they themselves can share from, having thought, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. And so, yes, it's learned. And then also sometimes we have those who back that culture. Instead of being an ally to resist that culture, they back the culture and say, well, it happened to this is how it has happened. If you get a smack, take it, and don't make him angry again. Be careful, walk the line. And these are what one must call it. These are social norms that are social evils. They are social norms that we've accepted, and we say, no, this is how it is. And we have to be called to that work of unworking those social norms. We have to be called to that work of transforming those social norms. And that's one of the key factors of why, in my work that I work, while I work with Faith Action, a lot of the work that I do is with Heartlines, and I love the program of Fathers Matter, because we are having conversations not only with men, we're having conversations with women, men, youth, and children, in the ECD space. Even earlier when I shared some of that, the response of the report came out of the press report that's fresh off the press by Heartlines. But why I love doing this work, it's allowing us to transform those irregular social norms. And this is where those of us who are in the faith space, those of us who are at church, we got to get a hold of our, sacred text. We got to get a hold of our biblical language that speaks about peace and justice and healing and hope. And let's be honest, I'm on Radio Pulpit. We are with the Heart to Heart family. Jesus has come to transform our lives. We're right here in the season of Advent. Yesterday, I shared from the Gospel of John, and interestingly, we all know John 3:16, but we don't know the verses that come before, right? For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in Him will not perish but have eternal life. But you know that Nicodemus, a leader of a faith leader, a Pharisee, came to Jesus in the middle of the night to have this serious conversation. And he asked Jesus some questions. And I think, why am I reflected on that? I'm calling people this Christmas, this season of Advent, this 16 days of activism, to get into a conversation as a faith leader. Maybe we got to approach our Savior through our prayers. We got to come before the Lord and, get down on our knees. I remember that song many years ago that said it like this, down at your feet, O Lord, is the most high place. Let's get down to the feet of Jesus and come and bring our confessions. Our confessions around gender-based violence. Our confessions around the fact that sometimes in the faith sector, we have created spiritual abuse by just saying to people, we'll pray for you. So it's time now. If this season of Christmas, I want it to be beautiful. But can you imagine, in our church, while on Sunday we're singing praises, we're singing joy to the world, because we began the season of Advent, there the chair stands. There the chair stands with the poster that says a place for them. And we are holding in tension both, yes, the celebration of Jesus' coming, but also the pains that our people face. And hasn't Jesus Christ come to transform us and transform our world? Yes, and also to transform the gender-based violence, the domestic violence. So you're quite right, Sibongile. There are people out there that have been educated incorrectly. They've experienced injustices. They sometimes have been duped by irregular spirituality and spirituality and churches that have abused folk, because instead of us doing the right, we've chosen to do the wrong. This factor on gender-based violence, in some ways, I don't like talking about it like this, but we must say, hey, where the devil is wreaking havoc, we must say it. Gender-based violence is not of God. Domestic violence is not of God. This is not of the behaviors and the practices, the virtues and values of people that love Jesus Christ. So, as a Christian, working in the context of the spaces that I do with Faith Action and Heartlines in my church in Joburg South, we're calling on more faith actors, for faith leaders, to adopt the campaign. I mean, I know we already now on 2nd December, but it's never too late. Come the 8th of December, people are going to be at church. They could send the poster out now. They could have a conversation. So we're asking people to get join on board, and not just for the 16 days, but let's see the healing of our land through sustained action.
One question that I would have is, why are faith-based organizations afraid sometimes to address this? Are we afraid to lose members who are maybe paying tithes or something? And so we are afraid to address this, and we would just say to a person, we'll pray for you?
Oh, Sibongile, this is such a hard one, because, let me take a step back with you around issues. Like, say, sometimes, unfortunately, we as the church, we as people of faith, we wake up after the fact. But I'm grateful that in South Africa, when it came to racism and apartheid, there were those people who stepped forward. Like, we have the historic document called the Kairos document. That was the drive of the church. But there were lots of people that never came to the fore to speak up against apartheid. I think this is, again, a conditioning where we are in a system of patriarchy and empire that teaches us, follow the plan, follow the status quo. And let's be honest, Jesus did come to disrupt the status quo. The status quo of oppression, the status quo of, the empire, the Roman Empire, enacting its force on God's people and enslaving them and dehumanizing them. That part of faith is also part of our faith. Yes, our faith is driven by us, called to do the work of justice. So I think, in light of fear, yes, there is fear. People don't want to stand out and stand up and push back. But we've got to do the pushing back on this issue of gender-based violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence. And that's the call. That's the call of, yes, it's the call of the campaign, Sibongile. But no, it's not just the call of the campaign. It's the call of our Savior, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, to those of us that are in the faith sector, to those of us who have a faith and we hold it dear. We cannot keep quiet and just keep it, push it under the carpet. We've got to make a stand and speak up. And yes, I mean, if pastors really want to get assistance and even, we've got what they've got, like a preaching series. You could have the title and the text and bring it into your message and educate people. Our pulpit time, we're on radio pulpit, but our pulpit time is God's time with our people, isn't it? But can you imagine that we'll go to churches and over years people don't want to engage in this? So I think it's high and tide. The time is long time past that the church must come to the fore, and the faith sector and people of other faiths as well. But I'm speaking to church people right here on Heart to Heart and radio pulpit. If there's a pastor out there, don't be scared to disrupt the status quo. Follow your Jesus. Don't be scared to disrupt, because we're gonna, that member may not come back to church. No, go at it with compassion and care and courage. And you'd be surprised if we do the right.
Mm-hmm.
There might be wisdom in doing the right to fix what's wrong. And we may see a greater outpouring of God's Spirit. We may see a greater outpouring of blessings. We might see a greater outpouring of favor. Come on, Sibongile, don't let me preach right now. Somebody's got to see it different, you know.
Somebody's got to see
Amen,
different.
right
Yeah.
and this means we've got to flip the script. We've got to flip the script of saying, no, it's okay, we're scared, we can't talk about it. We've got to get into the work. And it means getting our hands dirty, rolling up our sleeves, and getting into the trenches of the pain and the hurt of our people. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I know that it's scary, even for a pastor to think, how am I going to... It's easier just to say, let me do, the Lord's Prayer. Let me bring you into a place of confession. But here we are. We are the ones that can do the coaching, the mentoring, and helping people to unlearn the terrible norms and status quo that they have, to help them shift. And I mean, if I can quote from, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
Yeah.
We can be the ones that help our people strengthen their voice as survivors to say, come on, let's work together to stop the rot. Let's work together to stop the abusers. But we can also be the ones that come along and draw perpetrators close. We've spoken about this. But there are many prodigal sons out there. There are many hurting perpetrators out there.
Yeah.
Let's stop the cycle of hate and shame and guilt and diminishing of humanity. Gender-based violence is dehumanizing people, not just the people that are victims and living as survivors, but the children and families. And in this season of Advent, in this 16 days of activism, by God's grace, we can declare, Gloria in excelsis Deo. Why? Because Jesus Christ came to set the captive free.
Right.
Jesus Christ came that those who are wounded and feeling hurt will receive their blessing. So I'm confident that we and I'm thankful. I must also say, while there's so much, stacked up against us, and people that are out there in our churches, in our communities across South Africa, I'm grateful to God that the Red Check campaign is on the move. I'm grateful for Heartlines and Faith Action and We Will Speak Out and Hope Africa, the Council of African Independent Churches, the Anglican Church, different communities, the URCSA, Annandale. I mean, there's a whole host of people that have got on board. So we want to say, Lord, we give you praise, we give you thanks. We are grateful for those people. But let's see a whole lot more, a whole lot more. Come on, just get involved and get plugged in and do something instead of doing nothing.
All right. So if we want to be part of this, we want more information, how do we do that?
So, Sibongile, when it comes to contacting and being in contact, the one space that we are on TikTok, we are on X, but where you see a lot of the documented information is, on our Faith Action page, and then people can contact directly, info@wwsosa.org.za or communication@wwsosa.org.za. And this is the We Will Speak Out, contact details. They can also get online to the Faith Action website. And also if they're looking at Fathers Matter through Heartlines, posted and have launched the Red Check campaign as well. So there's lots of people that have known the Fathers Matter campaign, and it's out there already. So yes, we're available, and if anybody would like to get in touch, directly and learn more, I can give my Heartlines email address, seth@heartlines.org.za, and we can be in touch with people. I'm also accessible as one of those that are serving on the campaign and working with Fathers Matter to end gender-based violence. So there isn't a lack of resources. Also, I want to leave people with this, Sibongile. There are useful contacts. Lifeline, domestic violence helpline is accessible. The National Shelter Movement is accessible. The SA Depression and Anxiety Group. These are resources that people can call out for help in this time.
Right.
And yes, Sibongile, we are grateful to you. Thank you for, dear Excellency Sibongile, for what you do through Heart to Heart and really being bold to help us bring this message to people, a place for them. The Red Chair campaign, remembering those lost to domestic and gender-based violence. But let us remember John 3:16, for God so loved the world. God's got an amazing, agape, unconventional, out of context, amazing, outstanding, substantial love to heal those that are hurting and heal those that are doing the hurting. So yes, thank you so much, Sibongile, for your time, and we are grateful for the listeners of Heart to Heart.
Thank you so much. Have a great one. We'll be in touch again very soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bless you.
And yes, my family, that is Your Excellency Seth Naiker from the Faith Action to End GBV. And if you'd like to know more about the Red Check campaign, you'd like to know more about everything that we were talking about today, you can go to www.www.sosa.org.za. It's www.sosa.org.za. Good day to Pastor Lufuno Negota. Thank you so much for tuning in and also being with us, saying goeiemiddag to us. And good day to Tulani. And Tulani is in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. Utulani Gandlovu. He says, hi, Sibongile. I'm tuned in to Heart and I'm enjoying the program. Please play Pascal, Faithful. You know, every time I see that song, I think of you. I think, Uti, hey, I know somebody who loves this song, and that is Tulani Gandlovu. Tulani Ndlovu in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. I'm going to give you that song, Faithful, there by Pascal Yav. And that is going to take us through to Dr. Anke Dipierre, and do remember she's talking today about digital safety. And we'll be connecting to Josie Kit. We'll be talking to Mariel, talking about the effect of giving a child a cell phone too early. And she is also going to tell us how Josie Kit can come through or come in and assist in helping you to have your children out there more than being on the gadgets, more than being on the cell phones. But let's start with digital safety, talking or listening to the teaching there by Dr. Anke Dipierre. And for those ones who missed out on what we were talking about with Sir Naiker, you can get a podcast later on, even on our Facebook. We were streaming live, but also for more information, www.sosa.org.za. Now this one is for you, Tulani Ndlovu in Bulawayo.
Help me worship today. He never fails, and he's always on time. I'm broken, afraid. The suffering has overwhelmed me. My mind caving in. I cannot seem to find the way out. Will these dry bones live again and see brighter days? After everything I've been through, my heart cannot take it. It's way too hard.
Nothing is impossible. It's the God who can restore. His grace is still available. He does miracles.
He's faithful.
Faithful. My God is faithful. Faithful. He keeps the promises he's made. His word will never go in vain. He's faithful. My God is faithful through it all.
My God is faithful through it all. And now that I've heard that you do wonders and you care, yes you do, and you keep to your word, you're not a man that you should lie.
Lord, remind me one more time of what you've done for me, yeah.
Of all you've done for me, 'cause with everything within me, I believe
Thanks to God's goodness, we're still able to broadcast the good news of Christ, and we're excited to keep going. But to stay on air, we need partners like you. Will you join us in reaching our 2.2 million rand target for our daily running costs? Every contribution helps us continue spreading the gospel across all our platforms, connecting faith to life. To give, simply SMS GIVE and the amount you'd like to contribute to 37871. Standard rate supply. Keep us on air everywhere.
Get your daily bread, but also your faith in practice. It's 657 AM, the sounds of your life.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. Anke de Beer, and we are going to start a series with the name of The Digital Dilemma, Restoring Wholeness in Spirit, Soul, and Body. I have also written a book with my husband, Aldred de Beer, and the reason why we started this podcast is that there was so many requests after we have spoken at schools or at churches or at functions, and a lot of people came to me afterwards asking me, Anke, where do we get this information? Initially, this information was only in my head and in my heart, and something that the Lord have dealt with me over the last 10 years. And that was also the reason initially why I started the first PhD degree on the subject of digital dilemma, specifically focusing on the effects of gaming and role-playing game on the spirit, soul, and body. So afterwards, I started speaking at schools and at functions, and like I said, so many people ask me, but where do I get this information? After that, I started writing a book called The Digital Dilemma, and that book only came out about 2 years ago. But still, the book was not available on all the platforms, and it was not available at all the bookshops, and there was still a huge request for this information. And that's why, by the grace of God, we decided to start this podcast. So welcome to episode 1 of the podcast on the digital dilemma, restoring wholeness in spirit, soul, and body. So episode 1 will be an overview of digital safety, and episode 1 will also be just an introduction on what we can expect on the podcast to follow. So yes, we need to address this, and thank you for being on this episode. Thank you for listening, and it's really my heart to deal with you, my passion and my calling, and also what the Holy Spirit have shared with me with regards to this digital dilemma that we are currently facing. So why this title of The Digital Dilemma? And the reason why I started with the title of this dilemma that we're currently in is, especially our children, is because of the fact that we will have our digital devices, and we will have cell phones, and we will have tablets for the rest of our lives. The technology that we now have are here to stay, and it will only expand to become faster and bigger and more clever, like we see now with the AI that is coming in. So technology is here to stay. Unfortunately, with the influx of technology, we also see a massive rise, especially in teenagers. We see a rise in depression, we see a rise in anxiety, we see a rise in self-harm and suicidality. When we deal with gaming, we see a rise in aggression in the young children, a rise in ADHD. We also see this massive problem that children now have with being exposed to unwanted sexual content or pornography. So we have this rise in technology, and not everything on the technological platforms is harmful or wrong. So obviously I am aware of the fact that a lot of these technology advancements and devices are good, and we can use it for good, and I'm not going to debate that. My heart is to share the harms and the dangers with regards to our digital devices. So we need to talk about a couple of things. We need to say to each other that there is dangers and there is harms, and how do we navigate this dilemma of needing the technology and needing the platforms of the technology, needing the devices, but also how can the parents, especially the parents, protect children from the dangers on the digital world. You as an individual, how can you protect your heart and your mind with regards to excessive screen time or what you are looking at, or the constant scrolling, or whatever it is that you are battling with. Or then if you are in the education field and you are an educator, how can you then successfully navigate seeing children a lot online, maybe understanding that they need to use the digital devices for homework, for example, or research. So allowing the digital devices, but also understanding that children are hurting each other with the same device. So we need to outline the trends of increased technology use globally among youth. On this platform and on this podcast, we will describe some potential harms that children may encounter as they use technology. We need to review different actions parents can take to mitigate the risk of children's experiencing or participating in harms facilitated by technology. And then also we need recommended strategies parents can use or educators can use to increase their child's capability to operate online in a safe and healthy way. So this is really, really a mouthful, and that's why we are going to do this in a couple of episodes so that we can cover everything. So currently, what are the trends and stats that we are seeing with regards to children? So we see that 1 in 3 children uses the internet today that are under the age of 18. That globally most devices are how children are most commonly accessing the internet. Smartphone ownership and use has become an absolute central part of a teenager's life across genders, ethnicities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. 95% of teenagers reporting that they own a smartphone or that they have access to one. Additionally, 45% of these teenagers report that they are online on a near constant basis. And then almost half, 49% of the 0 to 2 years old interact with smartphones, and that the Gen Z average around 9 hours of screen time a day. And these statistics and trends are absolutely horrific, and that we need to address that. We need to say to each other, but we cannot ignore this anymore. So very interesting is that in 2023, end of last year, they came out with the trends and statistics with regards to South Africa and where we are with regards to our screen time. They did a study from 43 nations, and South Africa tops the charts for average screen time consumption per day. That means that South Africa is the most internet-addicted country in the world. And that is really, really a scary statistics. South Africa spent about 10 hours and 46 minutes on their screen per day. So on average, people spend about 44% of their waking hours looking at a screen. But in South Africa, this figure is closer to 70%. So in different countries in the world, we see that this same trend of children and teenagers absolutely migrating to a digital world and leaving the real world behind. But what is absolutely significant in other countries is that we see that the government is implementing rules and the government is implementing some regulations with regards to screen time. We see, for example, a country like the Netherlands have implemented that children are not allowed to take any digital device or any phones to the schools from the 1st of January 2024. So we see that country have already implemented that regulation. There is other countries in Europe that have the exact same regulation. China, for example, they have regulated that it is illegal for children to game after 8 o'clock at night. But yet, South Africa is the most internet-addicted country in the world, but there is no rules and no regulations with regards to screen time and how to protect children. That's why it is so important, it's vitally important that parents will know what to do, that parents will understand a child's digital life, that you will understand also what the harms and the dangers is. How can you be on the lookout for the symptoms so that you can protect the children online, protect yourself maybe if you are the one who have excessive screen time. And then also if you are an educator, a teacher, a headmaster, that you can know exactly what to do and what to look out for. So there is a whole host of damaging side effects that are linked with too much screen time. During the course of this podcast and the episodes to follow, we are going to discuss, hopefully, all of them or a lot of them. My heart is with each and every episode to take a case study that I have seen or witnessed firsthand in the counseling room. My heart is to take the scenario of what is a real life situation and then unpack it in the episodes so that we can understand what is happening currently in South Africa, what is happening in the schools, what is happening in your child's mind or in your teenager's mind. And if you see the exact same symptoms, or you can see that the same acting out or the same thing is happening to your child, that you can have some guidelines and understanding what is happening and how do I do this. So some of the damaging side effects that we see currently is the number one thing that I see a lot in the counseling room is sleep deprivation. About a week ago, I was asked to see a young man, he is 9 years old, with regards to acting out in class, where there was complaints from the teacher's side that this boy is really rebellious, he is not paying attention, that he is bullying his fellow class students, fellow classmates, and that also I had some complaints about the parents saying that the aggression is quite high. So I called this young man out and he was sitting with me in the counseling room, and in my office I have a nice big comfortable chair, and this boy just climbed up on that comfortable chair, and I quickly realized, but this boy is going to fall asleep. So I started talking with him, what he did the previous night, and he explained to me that he was sleeping in his grandparents' bedroom. So he just pulled in his mattress into his grandparents' bedroom, and he literally waited for his grandmother and grandfather to fall asleep. So the moment they fall asleep, he took out his tablet, which he hid it under the pillow, and he was on his screen playing a game called Roblox. So Roblox is a very popular game that our youngsters are playing. So he was playing Roblox into the wee hours of the night. So I asked this boy, remember he's 9 years old, I asked him, so what time did you eventually go to bed? And he said to me he played Roblox until 2 o'clock in the morning. So yes, that's why this young man was so sleep deprived the next day that he just wanted to fall asleep on my couch. That's also why we see this behavioral problems is because of excessive screen time. So we will in 1 or 2 or 3 episodes, depending on how we unpack it, but we will specifically discuss gaming addiction and what the effects of gaming addiction is on the well-being of children. So we also see that there is a strong association between screen time and obesity in children aged 5 to 17. We see also a susceptibility to type 2 diabetes, and then also a massive problem, but also this we can see with regards to children, and also teachers will give an account of this, that there is delayed learning, so that young children who watch excessive amount of TV or have excessive screen time experience difficulty picking up language, spelling, understanding, remembering, and that's also something that we will unpack later on. So the number one reason why a country like the Netherlands, for example, have decided to ban phones and screens and digital devices altogether is because of a specific aspect that we call a constant distraction. So because children are on their screens on a near constant base, and that the moment that you switch from, say, doing your homework or studying and switch from concentrating on the worksheet in front of you and switch to a screen for whatever reason it is, for maybe to answer a WhatsApp or to check your status on Instagram or to answer a call, doesn't matter, but that act of task switching to the screen, or even maybe switching to listen to music and then go back on focusing on the worksheet or the paper or the studying in front of you, it takes your brain an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back to deep focus. So every brief mental block can cause you to lose as much of 40% of your productive time. If you think that most of your time spent on your phone is done doing productive activities, studies have actually proven otherwise. And just also to share a story with you with regards to this, I was called out to the sick room at one specific school. I was there for the day doing counseling, and they called me out to the sick room saying that there's a girl, she's grade 10, and she just had a panic attack during class time, and they took her to the sick room, and I went to see her there. So when I got to the sick room, I recognized this girl because she is one of the girls and one of the patients that's frequent in the counseling room. The reason why she came to the counseling room was initially because this girl was cutting herself, and she was suffering from depression and she was suffering from anxiety. Also, she had struggles with interpersonal relationship. The relationship with the parents was not doing well. She was struggling with maintaining friendships at school. So altogether, this girl was not doing well. So I know from seeing her in the past that this girl especially had excessive screen time. So she was on her phone way too much. So I shared with her and I dealt with her the effects of too much screen time. But I don't think that she listened or that she realized just how devastating these consequences can be. So nonetheless, there she was lying on the sick bed. And I asked her what happened and why did she get the panic attack. She explained to me saying that she was studying the couple of days before, and that morning that she had to write a science test. And they marked the science test afterwards, and she failed the science test, and she only got 20% for the science test. And she, right there, started having a panic attack for a couple of reasons. But also, she did not know how to go home and tell her mom that she's failing science again. And also that, all the host of other problems, now also having problems with her academics. So I asked her how the couple of days was before she studied, and she said, and she promised me, she said, Mom, I did study, and I asked her to check on a screen time for me, and she opened up the phone and she go to the settings, and she said that her average screen time for the couple of days before was roughly about 7 to 8 hours a day. But she was very proud of herself, saying that it actually came down from 10 hours a day. So yes, that was good that it came down from 10 hours a day, but still 7 or 8 hours a day screen time is too much. So what she did study, but she multitasked her studying with being on a screen and listening to music. And if the statistics and the research is true, that it takes you an average of 23 minutes to get back to deep focus, then her studying actually meant nothing. She didn't retain the information, and like the research also said, that she have lost as much as 40% of her productive time. Another study also indicated that your IQ dropped with almost 10 points when you multitask your screen with being productive or trying to concentrate. They actually gave it a new name, saying it's not multitasking anymore, but it's task switching or milkshake multitasking because of the effects of the screen. So yes, that's why we need to understand that children cannot multitask their studying or their homework with their screens. If it is time for them to study or if it's time for them to do the homework, the best advice I can give you is to take the screens away completely so that they can concentrate 100% on the work in front of them, and only after they've studied or only after they've done their homework, they can get, say, half an hour or an hour screen time. Also remember to take away the screens altogether so that children will not have screens in the bedroom, and an hour and a half before bedtime they should also not have screen time, but we will go into the science about that a little bit later. So I just want to end off with this scripture of today, and it says in Mark 4 verse 16, "In a similar ways, these are the ones on whom seed was sown on rocky places, who, when they hear the word, immediately receive it with joy, and they have no firm root in themselves, but are only temporary. Then, when affliction or persecution arises because of the word, immediately they fall away." So here we can see with the price of distractions that in this scripture of Mark 4 is that the word of God gets stolen. And the number one thing that I need to focus your attention on, at the end of the day, the Bible says it is idolatry. Our attention often runs to what's important to us. So, distractions can reveal what we love. We are living currently through a crisis of attention, and we must understand that there is a war for our children. There is a war ongoing for the hearts of our children, for the minds of our children. And then because of this constant distractions, our minds and thoughts often become fragmented. I want to end off with a story once that had happened to me personally. I was doing my Bible study and it was my quiet time, and I also had my Bible with me not my Bible, I had my phone with me in the room. And while I was praying, I got a WhatsApp and this, very familiar ping. And I stopped my prayer just to see who was WhatsApping me. So I got distracted, like I've read here. And immediately the Holy Spirit dropped this thing into my spirit asking me, "Anke, what are you doing?" And I've realized just there and then that I was multitasking my prayer life and my quiet time with my phone. And I'd allowed to be distracted from prayer and from conversation with God with a WhatsApp, and immediately I repented and asking God to forgive me. So yes, for today's podcast, something that you can take home with you today is to understand where we are with regards to research that currently South Africa is the most internet addicted country in the world. I want you to remember and understand what the price that we are paying because of this constant distraction, and also to understand what the Word of God is saying, that if we allow this, it is idolatry, and that there is a war ongoing for our souls and for our hearts. So thank you very much. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. It is really my honor to speak with you, to share my heart with you, and I invite you to come and listen to episode 2. You must have an amazing day. Goodbye.
You'd go through the things you've been through. You never knew that you